committee meeting is now called to order. We can, if everyone's had an opportunity to review them, we can consider a motion on the fourth quarter committee meeting from August 31st.
Grammatical errors.
That would be perfect. Perfect.
But I have read.
I like your style.
You approve the intent of what it's trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't want someone in the public to read it and think badly of us.
Okay.
I like
Second. With corrections.
corrections. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, now we will jump over. I want to have a conversation about the legislative agenda. Last year we started something that I think works really well with working with the administration and just putting out one legislative agenda. I think our state representatives appreciated that last year. So something that we definitely want to keep going. And we have a list here you should have of some of the items that are on this agenda that we are kind of, some of these were here last year. Some of the things that were on last year's agenda we did get resolved successfully. And so that's always good to achieve some things in Montgomery. And so thankful for the team that works to make those things happen. But just kind of run down the list here. Automated photographic traffic enforcement system. I think we had a presentation on that at this committee, so we don't have to go into too much detail there unless we want to.
When can we get it?
All right.
Ready. I'm ready.
So I had a lot of conversations. So I know I guess to recap what we got last year, we got the bill through the Senate. We were unable to get onto the House floor for consideration. And so this year we'll, go back, ask for sponsors and see if we can actually get it passed this year. The good part about it is every other city in the Jefferson County delegation's footprint that has requested this has actually got it passed. And so we're the only one that has requested and hasn't gotten it passed. So we'll keep working that. And I'm optimistic as always. So.
You think in 2023?
I'm hoping. Let's see if we just combine forces. I think we might be able to get it done.
Are there any other cities in Alabama that are trying to get it besides Birmingham?
I haven't seen. I mean, we'll have to. I know last year nobody else. I didn't see any other bills there. 2023, we'll have to see if any other bills surface. But I know a lot of the cities went in the first 2 years once that the opportunity presented itself and got the bill passed, and most of them are still using that technology now.
I think the city was waiting for all the lawsuits to be resolved to make sure that it was legal.
Yeah, now I will say, like you have, you've been here longer than me, but you've been on this journey with me about the whole time when we were meeting, I guess like 4 years ago, trying to get going and get the ball rolling. So every year we have progressed, got all the way through the Senate last year. So, if the trajectory continues, we will be getting over the hump. So, like I said, I'm keeping hope alive. Also, we have access to capital for minority-owned and small businesses. This is related to basically some tax credits that can be made available for loaning institutions that provide capital to businesses in this category. I'm waiting to get this bill drafted. We're not drafting this bill, let me say that, but this is a representative out of Huntsville is drafting this bill, and we're just advocating and supporting that.
So it would be a statewide, it apply to all the banking.
Right, yeah.
All the lenders in the state.
All right, so SB 339, this bill is being carried by Senator Coleman Madison, and this is Councilor Clark, something she's been pushing This might have been the first thing we ever talked about, but she's been pushing this pretty hard. And so this basically makes it easier for us dealing with getting more properties into the land bank. And so when you look at some of the changes that they had in how land banks can acquire the properties, this will allow, one, for the period to be shortened as far as the redemption period. And so right now, land bank is still, required to follow that same 3-year period before they can actually take on the deed. That period no longer applies to land banks if this bill passes. And so excited about that piece. Also in this bill, let me rewind, that doesn't apply if the collecting authority has a lien on it. And so, our grass cutting liens, our demolition liens, things like that, we have liens on that property, we're able to take ownership a lot quicker. It does provide some other things. I don't know, if we're interested in the working or connecting to other land banks, but it does allow for that. Did you want to add anything on this one?
Yeah, I would just say that one thing that's really important to getting some of the provisions of the amendment is that the county no longer sells tax delinquent properties to the state, and that's how we get them now. We get them through, we get them from, properties that are sold to the state. The land bank can get them for less than the taxes owed. They could basically get the tax deed, and then they take that tax deed through the probate court. Well, because now the county isn't selling tax, they're not doing the tax deed sale, they're doing a tax lien sale to private investors. They've been doing that for about a year. So the pool of properties that our land bank is eligible for under the current enabling legislation will become smaller and smaller, because they're not going to keep selling properties to the state. So there won't be anybody, that pool that we can get will start shrinking. So we want to be able to get them through the tax lien sale process. And so this kind of updates, it puts us in that queue. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get any from this new crop of tax delinquent properties going forward. Does that make any sense? I don't think I'm explaining it well, but that's my understanding.
Well, we're basically in line with everybody else effectively. So if there are no bids on the property, we can get it for the minimum listed value on that property. We can take ownership, but if there are private bids, we can bid with people, but I don't know that that's what we'd be looking to do. If somebody wants it, they can probably have it. Yes, ma'am.
So I want to make sure I understand. So the county is selling tax delinquent properties to private investors, and those investors are paying the delinquent taxes and the delinquent liens, and then they go away with the property?
Well, no, they're not actually getting the property. They're just buying the tax liability, and they can assess fines and fees. It's been seen by some people who are watching this trend across the country to be pretty injurious to the property owners, but it's too new here to really know how it's going to impact. We've been talking to the tax collector's office a lot, trying to learn more about it. They think the redemption process is easier, but for the homeowners, but
yeah, so
remains to be seen.
they're selling the tax lien.
The homeowners who are not paying the taxes, it's easier for them to redeem using their...
With this new process is what they think. And so every year, okay, when they sold it to the state, the tax, and somebody bid on it, the tax bill would go to whoever bid and started paying the taxes. Now the tax bill will continue to go to the homeowner every year. It's just some changes we need to understand and be on top of. But I'm not an expert in it, but
I'm not on top of it at all. I haven't even heard about it, so I'm glad to hear about it today. But
the tax bill continues to go to the family who owns it. The investor doesn't have to buy. Can buy multiple tax liens, and and basically is in charge of collecting the fees, assessing fees and fines, but it's a different process. But the land bank right now is not in the queue to get those. Not really, unless it acted just as any investor.
And pay
Doesn't
the
have anything
taxes.
special.
So they would have to pay the taxes just like the investors.
So, no, basically they're selling the tax lien. The investors will, pay the liability, pay the taxes going forward. The original owner has 3 years to redeem that. And so in order to redeem it, I think they would have to pay everything that's been paid, plus I want to say the percentage, like 6% or something, 8% on top of that, and they can redeem it in a 3-year period. Once that 3 years expires, then ownership changes. Also in this bill, the land bank would not be subject to that 3-year redemption period. And so that wouldn't apply. So we would not have to necessarily wait to take ownership, and could move more expeditiously towards actually getting a deed.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had Jim Stanley here because he can explain it a lot better.
Yeah, he does do
Should we try to
much
get
more
him to
eloquent.
come? Or talk to Elena or something?
I can maybe, I don't know if we need to bring him.
Maybe we could
one
have
of
another briefing in another setting. So as we move forward with the agenda, we can have a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
'Cause
yes,
I'd just like to understand how it's working.
so what we're talking about is how it would work if this bill passes. That's not how it's necessarily.
Okay, but something's going on over at the county that at least one of us doesn't know much about.
Oh,
so.
yeah. They're changing their process, because like in the past, they can just send a letter up to the state if they wanted a property and get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can still do that, but it's a shrinking pool because
Yeah,
there's
replenished.
not properties adding to that every tax cycle. As we move forward, there will not be additional properties coming into that pool every tax cycle because they have a new process that doesn't involve the state land commissioner or the state finance department at all. And several counties are adopting it across Alabama and across the nation.
Well, I'm sure it's a moneymaker, just like raising your taxes every year. It's a moneymaker.
Every year. Yeah, they're on a streak on that. All right, so I'll make a note. Any of these other ones that require a deeper dive, we'll make sure to bring in the appropriate people because, like I said, they don't mind talking about it. And so the next thing is the exhibition driving bill. This bill has not been actually released yet. I think it's nearing completion of being written. And so once we get our hands on that, we'll look into the detail of it. But this bill will be aimed at giving us more tools in the toolbox to combat exhibition driving. Some of those things to highlight are potential jail of the drivers, impound of the vehicles, things like that will actually put some teeth in discouraging that behavior. And so that one has a good bit of momentum, and so it sounds like that one should have a good opportunity to get past there.
I know this may sound crazy, but I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to discourage the audience, because they seem a lot more, it's hard to apprehend somebody driving a vehicle that's moving very quickly. But the people standing around egging them on, it seems like could there be some kind of citation for watching a crime, assembling to watch a crime, and it's in essence encouraging a crime, because I do think if we could discourage the audiences from assembling, we might discourage the activity, because it's all about.
Yeah, if nobody's watching, what fun is it?
Yeah, well, they are using social media, but I just feel like because some people are also they're in danger and they're being killed too. So.
It's a dangerous situation. It's hard to.
But they're standing still. It's easy to give them a ticket.
I don't know what you would ticket them for. But we'll, we'll have the team do some
I don't
research.
know.
Yeah, so that one, I don't think there's anything in here about the onlookers, but
Well, do they arrest onlookers at cockfights and other illegal activities, or do they just arrest the perpetrators?
they never arrest you when you go. I don't think. I'm not sure. We don't do that.
I don't know,
in
but as I
Atlanta.
thought of this, I was thinking,
I mean, that's another
if I was in
illegal.
if I was in a illegal establishment that was selling, like a shot house that was selling booze without a license, I bet I would get have some sort of consequence of being there, even though I'm not, or say in a drug raid. I mean, do they just take? I mean, who gets in
it's-
trouble?
I think it's more illegal to sell it than buy it, but I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll defer.
I don't know. I was just wondering because it takes two to tango.
Well, and at cockfights
Seller
and
has to have a buyer.
cockfights and dogfights, nobody's selling you anything but observing the spectacle, which is what these street racers are doing. They're not even selling it. They're just creating a spectacle because it's fun, I guess.
Well, people are betting.
Oh, are they really? Do they bet they're not going to?
I don't know. They used to bet with the street races.
The races
I don't know
are-
that they're betting with the exhibition, with the donuts.
Oh, yeah, who does the best donut?
All right, I'll keep us going here. Jump into basically with the bill to cap employee liability, and so this is something that speaks to municipal employees basically doing their job, basically capping their liability, preventing them from being sued as long as they're not negligent, or let's see, willful or wanton. But there has been an uptick in, when things happen, throughout the city where there's a accident or things like that. Typically, the judge will throw out the employee. Like a lot of times, they'll get sued, and the city will get sued, but then the individual will get sued in their personal capacity. Sometimes, a lot of times, the judge throws it out, but that has occasionally been making it through, and people have actually been being sued directly and personally while doing their job. That impacts us because we don't want people to not want to work here because they're at increased risk if they make a mistake.
What's the genesis of this? Is this something HR or the law department or?
I can't track it that far back, but basically it has to deal with us getting sued and wanting to protect employees.
Okay. And I don't mean to really go back, but on the exhibition driving bill, who's drafting? You said it's being drafted and near completion.
I want to say, pretty sure it's Representative Treadaway is drafting that bill. But like I said, it should be released soon, and then we'll see exactly who all's on it.
Okay.
All right, so Class 1 vacant property registration. This is another community development related bill requiring, or it will allow the city to establish a program to create a vacant property registry. Owners would have to register their properties within like a 30-day period of the property becoming vacant. And just allows us to kind of build that. We did see at the Reclaiming Vacant Properties Conference some other cities that were doing something similar. And they basically tied it into GIS. It was very seamless, and so brought a lot of value. But this is one bill that will, we kind of talked about the land bank and the easier process of acquiring properties. This will allow us to, kind of register our vacant properties, understand who's doing things with their property or which properties are just flat out abandoned, and just create a higher level of accountability on the actual property owner. Anything?
So do you know who's in charge of that one?
I don't think we have a sponsor attached to this yet, but this one came out of the city. And the Class 1 bill and SB 339, those are already drafted, so we'll make sure you have copies of those.
Yeah, and I do think that Senator Coleman is willing to sponsor SB 339 in the Senate. I know she's been briefed some on it. I don't know if it has a House sponsor.
I don't think it had a House sponsor yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the competitive bid law from the computer and software point of view, also automotive parts, looking to get an exception to the competitive bid law. This was on our agenda last year, and this basically, I guess the best example is going to be, if you have computer programming and you have Microsoft, and you're forced to bid your, computer programming the following year, and something that's not compatible with Microsoft, if they win the bid, now you have to replace your entire software system. So it protects against things like that. And so picking that back up, I can't remember. I don't think this made very much progress last year, but like I said, going to try to get that on the table this year. Enabling legislation to enhance fines for littering and dumping and weed abatement. And so another area I think here in the city we know really well needs some more teeth to be able to kind of combat this. We see a decent amount of littering, dumping, and weed abatement issues. And so this was also on last year's agenda. And so we'll be picking this back up and trying to get a resolution.
So, can you just help me? I mean, y'all may be more familiar because it's been on there multiple years. Just from, being the new kid on the block, looking at how long it takes for some of these fines to be assessed. I mean, I guess the sheer administrative burden of the way they have to come, and somebody's got to do a lot of paperwork and get them back. I mean, it's like years later. I mean, it just seems like, even without this legislation, that there might be, maybe we need to hire somebody to create a software that can this is the workflow queen over here. But, might need to automate this somewhat, or do something to the process, re-engineer it so that it's more timely. I don't know.
I know they did a presentation. Administration was working on something because a lot of this stuff kind of overlaps with, I think PIC, going through the court systems, code enforcement, going through the court system, municipal court, and being able to levy those fines. Sometimes it goes the other way where liens get placed on property, things like that. But
so we have to go through a court process to levy the fines?
You got to have some sort of enforcement initiative. Something has to start that process. But
wow. Okay, I'd really be curious to just see the process, a flow chart.
Well, we have well, they did a presentation. They did present it, I will say, and they were working on making that more efficient. And I feel like there's going to be another presentation coming back to kind of give an update at some point. But they did lay out a pretty detailed overview of what they wanted to do.
Okay.
Basically advocating for vehicle-related fines. So this is kind of where we look at parking fines, being able to tie that to something tangible, to be able to kind of have improvement there. I know we did, just in some other solutions that were brought to the table, change to some digital methods of being able to pay for your parking. That has improved in some areas, but this bill specifically will tie your parking fines to your tag, your vehicle tag. And so basically tying that to something that will require those fines to be paid.
Okay.
This is the third or fourth year that we've had this.
Or fifth, or sixth, seventh.
Since I got here.
Yeah, because that would take some intergovernmental efforts.
Oh. That it would.
Which can happen.
Advocating also just expanding the state's voluntary pre-K program. For a while, Alabama had the #1 pre-K program in the nation, and just the accessibility was just at a very low percentage. And so really pushing to get that wide. And I think there were some classrooms added. But like I said, here in Birmingham, we want to try to maximize that to its fullest extent, and we'll kind of continue advocating for that push with several other municipalities and counties throughout the state. Let's see, increasing tourism dollars to Birmingham. Continue to push that. They did put us dollars into the budget last year associated with the World Games, and so continuing to try to push Birmingham up to get more of those dollars specifically for tourism and bringing people and events to our city.
So that would be some kind of allocation? Okay.
Basically, it's a budget request.
Would that go to our fabulous Convention and Visitors Bureau, or would it come to the city?
They could do it either way. Now, which way they would probably do it, I could see the Visitors Bureau being the preferred option, but we'll take it directly as well, so however they want to do it.
What was that famous quote we heard about the city does a lot of things, but we don't do any of them well? I can't remember who said that, but
Famous, but Hunter City, yes.
yeah. Well, we're not very good at
We do very few
increasing
things.
tourism for our city, so the Convention and Visitors Bureau probably is the one.
I'll let.
So this would be more dollars to promote the city of Birmingham as a place for tourists. Okay. Probably be appropriate for them to get it.
Yeah, that's basically what's happened in the past, and I'll let Hunter know he's famous now.
Yeah, he is famous. It's a famous quote, unfortunately.
Well, I'll say, we'll get it framed for him. Let's see. All right, so the TIF. So you probably remember this from last year. This actually did get passed. The TIF district was going to expire, went to the state along with the county to try to get that extended. That did get extended. And this is still here because there's some need to clarify some things in that bill. I'm not 1,000% sure exactly what has to be clarified, but the extension did pass last year, and so it is extended under the initial terms. And so I will get an update as far as once I see that written out, what exactly has changed.
Yeah, it would be very nice to get an update on what the plans are, because it's generating a lot of residual. It was going to expire or run out. And so it's pretty much, it's generating revenue. And so I don't know what the plans are, or that we approved any, like we didn't really have a capital budget. I think the TIF revenue was over on the operating side. So I'm still trying to understand all that. Back in my day, when I did the capital budget, the TIF funds were always in the capital budget.
Yeah,
So,
the TIF has always been used for capital improvements, to my knowledge.
in the TIF district.
Yeah, well, it's only in the district that's paying the money.
But I don't think we have a capital budget other than the old one.
We have a book.
We have a book. No new projects, though. Anyway. But what's happening with all that money? And so I want to know.
The most recent thing, they just did a update. What street is that?
20th?
Yeah, they just updated.
Yeah, so, right, for the World Games. We did the 20th Street. But we got a bridge that's barricaded downtown.
Felt like I knew you were about
And
to say the
so
bridge.
that would be an excellent use of TIF funds.
What do you want to do to it?
I don't care what we do to it. We can make it pedestrian, we can make it a skate park in the middle of downtown, but we don't need to have it
We have to stop
ugly
pieces
barricaded.
from falling off of it
Yeah,
and
if we
landing on
can
the
keep the
trains.
concrete from spalling and falling beneath the people below, and it just don't need to be ugly barricaded
I feel like we made
in
it
perpetuity.
we made it a pedestrian bridge when we set those barricades up.
But they're ugly.
We can get some nice
something
ones.
cuter.
Yeah. All right, so I can get behind that. We'll make it cuter.
Cuter, please.
We need rainbow barricades to go on the Rainbow Bridge. At least it would be
Or
pretty.
planners.
Rainbows. We need more rainbows.
All right.
We have some. I don't know. I think the Auburn Urban design studio has been working on some alternatives, but for BDOT, but I don't know what they are.
I like it. I like it the way
I'm
it is.
sure we'll be the last to know.
Yes.
Say that. That's not true. That's not true, guys.
I didn't say that.
All right, so administrative warrants to support code enforcement. This also is an item coming back from last year. This just gives a little bit more authority to our code enforcement officers, hopefully speeding some of those processes on code enforcement where they don't need an actual APO certified person to be available.
We got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, although a lot of these fit in with our kind of community development umbrella, improving on littering, dumping, vacant properties, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I do feel like the administration has reorganized to be more effective with code enforcement. We just need whatever we can have to be more efficient at.
Yeah. Efficiency would be good. All right, last thing was just kind of advocating. This was expanding the broadband policy definition to kind of give us the ability to benefit from that. Under that policy is really restricted to rural communities. Up down here. Okay. So A is basically captured in SB 339, and then the B is the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which will be number 15 once we fix that. But this is basically looking to the state to set up some funding so we can actually have a trust fund here. And also, this is another one of our, like I said, community development umbrella items that drastically give us ability to further impact the communities.
What would the Housing Trust Fund do?
Basically create some fundings to whether you want to go in and, renovate blocks. Like we've been able to do some things through leveraging capital dollars, I think like Bellevue Heights and Woodlawn. I can't remember all the sites where they've gone in and done some residential development properties. They use these trust funds a lot of times to put in those same projects and leverage it in other ways. But typically, I've always seen this money get used to just add resources to those residential development projects. So if you're able to collect, a series of lots or something like that, and you want to build 15 houses on them, they have money.
Yeah, I think for Alabama, our affordable housing toolkit has just been woefully lacking. And, Pat Todd fought hard to get this trust established, but there was no funding mechanism to go with it. And we just formed one, I think, locally with the ARPA funds. And it's just whenever you do affordable housing for which there is a public purpose, somebody's got to pay for it, because you can't just afford to build it for what it costs to build and then let somebody buy it for what they can afford to buy it for. So, there's a gap always to do affordable housing, unless you do, Auburn Rural Studio had those 20K houses, but I'm sure they probably cost 50K now. But I'm just saying, it's just, and if you compare us to other states, we just haven't had anything to work with. And we have a pressing need, because I always say, in Birmingham, we got lots of affordable housing in this multifamily housing stock, but it's not anything people should live in. Right? We got a lot of affordable housing, like, Class F multifamily.
Yeah, like I said, the administration has had a series of robust community development projects that have happened, but it's filling the gap on the funding, because the builder's not going to build if it's upside down. So how do you close that gap and stuff? That's largely what these funds be used for, but
And I think historically, we haven't leveraged our HUD entitlement funds with general funds. We've just used whatever we got and not put any more. I mean, we haven't put other funds with that money, to, anyway.
Okay. All right, so legislative agenda, we'll kind of line this up if everybody is on the same page and send this to full council. And the ones where, there may be some questions and things like that, we'll reach out to our good friends in administration. I see Earl Jr. in the back, and I know he can answer any question that we have. And so I don't want him to have to do it twice. I'm nice over here. I'll let you just do it once at the full council. But like I said, there probably will be a lot of questions, I know, from some people.
But do we feel like this represents a combined list for council and the administration, as far as we know?
Yeah, as far as I know, it could be fluid still. Things may come up as we go, but like I said, a lot of these have, a good bit of these things have rolled over from last year. Some things that we wanted to continue. There were some things that we're working on that rolled off that, just may not continue to push. And then, some things actually got a favorable resolution. And then we had a few things get added this year with a lot of these community development related type items. But yeah, like I said, I think they have got a good feel for what they want to accomplish, and it fits in pretty well with what the council has shared as their priorities, and so we'll continue to.
Well, I do feel good about this body's efforts to have a legislative agenda that's unified for the city, and it just seems like this is our lane. We're the legislative branch, and so this, I think, for the administration, I mean, it's not going to do us a good to pass, push for a lot of bills that the administration's not interested in, because they have to implement them. But when we can get together and agree on legislative priorities and present, an agenda that represents our agreement on the things we want to pursue and work on, I just think, it's better for everybody who's helping us get there, because, it's not a left-hand, right-hand disparity. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. So, I'm proud of the effort to do this, and I hope, we can be successful again.
Yeah, Mr. Hilliard does a great job, and he only kicked out about 5 or 6 items this year, so improvement. So like I said, we will, I'll just ask, we'll have folks on hand to kind of answer this in more detail for folks that may not be as familiar with some of these when it comes up. And then if anybody wants to dive in a little further before that, we can make that happen as well. All right. If there are no further questions or comments, we can entertain a motion on this item.
Okay, so we're just basically approving the legislative agenda as drafted?
Yes, there is the resolution is not on here, but
I would like for those last two to get their own number, but I mean,
well, it'll be, because I said that'll be number 15, and so that will be correct, unless you want to be number 9? Or
no, it could be number 15.
We'll make
number
it number
1
15.
would be good. No.
So which one is number 15, A or B, or both
The
of them?
foreclosure authority for municipal liens.
Okay, that's number 15. What about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
That's
Is that number
15.
16?
A is a part of SB 339.
So we're going to move it.
I'm sorry, 15 and 16.
Yeah, because I don't think 15.
A is 15, then B will be 16.
Wrong about that.
Oh, I have a question about number 10 before we approve anything. This talks about expanding the state's voluntary pre-K program, but the supporting sentence says to add reading coaches to grades 1 through 5. Those don't have anything to do with pre-K, so is this some kind of big bill that includes everything regarding education?
Has anything been drafted on this year? The expanded pre-K, state's voluntary pre-K. Is there anything actually drafted? Since you're here. Always.
Earl Hilliard Jr., Senior Public Affairs Officer for the City of Birmingham. Basically, on the voluntary pre-K, we had one last year. We will not use the same one. Last year, there was a specific allocation that was doing more for pre-K. So we'll have to do, if we want to expand it even more, what they did was they put some money into the state pre-K program. So there was some allocations that went there. This was one of the ones that was, even though we had a draft bill for it, this was more of an allocation request to have them expand it, because we just wanted them expanded. It was nothing specific like for the city of Birmingham. It was overall for the state. So if we want to make it more specific this year, since there's no overall allocation, we would have to be more specific with that bill. So we do not have anything drafted right now for the expansion of pre-K.
Well, what is this that's written here about the addition of reading coaches in grades 1 through 5? What does that have to do with pre-K?
Now, you're saying we were advocating for basically increasing the overall budget.
Right, with those specifics. So in other words, even though we were advocating for the expansion of the voluntary pre-K program, there were other educational things we're advocating for too. Like I said, this category last year was because they had specific monies that were going toward education, and we were trying to get them to advocate it under certain line items. So in other words, voluntary reading coaches, grades 1 through 3, was one of the ones we wanted them for. So in other words, yes, expansion of the pre-K program was one of the overall things, but we had a list of other educational pursuits. That was actually a request from the council in your submissions to what you wanted to add in the agenda. There were various things under education, so we had them under a topic because of the fact we could allocate money for that resource.
So maybe we could just put an "and" in there and it'll make sense. Okay, thanks.
Add some clarification to that summary. If anyone is so inclined to make a motion at this time.
So you're looking for a motion for us to approve this and send it to the full council for their review and comments or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve this with the modifications that we've discussed and send it to the full council for their review and comment.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. That motion passes. We will move on to item 4, which is the BJCC Equitable Contracting Resolution. And so, a little background here. I think just in general, I know we've been working the last, pretty much collectively since I've got here to kind of improve inclusion when it comes to MWBEs or hubs or however you reference it. But and the council's worked pretty well hand in hand. We had a hub resolution the council passed, and then the mayor also initiated a disparity study, which has come back. It kind of lists out some of the disparity studies, some of the actual existing disparities, as well as some recommendations going forward. So this is kind of in a similar vein as kind of improving opportunity aimed at leveling the playing field for black contractors, MWBEs, firms that, and trying to do what we can to improve the playing field there. And so this basically relates to the BJCC, I think there's a project coming up there that serves as a really good pilot opportunity to put some of these things in place and hopefully see some improvement as it relates to participation. And so when you look at kind of what the, I won't read it to you, but we will go through some of what this asks for. And to be clear, these are things that we will be being asked to put into any future project cooperation agreement with the BJCC. And so I'll run down this list of things that we're asking for. Basically, the construction of the project must be bid publicly. And this all references if there's city money involved. And so if we're, as the city of Birmingham is putting money into a project, this is when any of this stuff would come into play. But the project must be bid publicly. Basically, construction specifications, basically construction document package for the project must be made available. We're changing this to 30 days. The construction bid package must be made available 30 days prior to the bid date. Let's just want to make sure that all contractors, everybody interested in the project has adequate time to get the materials, review the materials, connect with, put bids together and get those to the proper parties. 3, the BJCC will advertise and host a contractor, subcontractor meet and greet a minimum of 21 days prior to the bid date. Again, a lot of times just interested general contractors having an opportunity to meet with interested subcontractors goes a long way. So knowing who's out there available to do the work and who's interested in doing the work and just trying to connect those individuals, building those relationships, I think can also have some important impact. The BJCC will authorize a designated City of Birmingham representative to access and observe the site. Think project manager, someone just to kind of almost owner's rep type role to just keep up with what's going on. If there's any issues, they'll be able to kind of share that back up the chain.
So let me ask about that, if you don't mind. So I know we'll have personnel who have to, through their development regulatory role, inspectors, folks like that, who have to be involved the whole time. So you're thinking of somebody more like a mayor's office type person, or a...
I would envision more of a project manager, someone going out to, look. So they would, under these things, they would be providing us with, say, a schedule, say a progress schedule of the project. And they would be able to access the site when needed. It's not a pop-up situation, but you just call and connect with the BJCC and go out and view what's needed to be able to kind of keep up with project. If you look at it through the lens of...
It could be someone from the sports and entertainment, IEO or something like that. Who has specific responsibilities to oversee,
right.
On our behalf, on behalf of the city.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a sense, try to get a concept of what we're talking about. I get that these are probably bi-weekly meetings, and it might be a lot for, they could be on the meeting invitations, they could have the option of attending if their schedule permits, and then they would get all the meeting records,
right.
Meeting summaries or meeting minutes, so they'd be in the communication loop as if they were, an owner.
This speaks to access.
Rep.
Yeah, so basically just that. And I think you got into the next thing where we would also have the ability to have a city representative attend OAC meetings. And so
I thought this was the part about the OAC meetings.
Yeah, so if you look at it through the lens of, if we have MWBs get opportunity to work on these projects, we want to make sure, like I said, if you really want to make sure everybody's being paid, in a timely fashion. You want to make sure that if people are having issues on the project or, behind schedule, we're just aware. And if there's assistance needed, with those folks, if they're having some sort of issue. A lot of times on these jobs, some of these firms, are more than capable of doing the work, but maybe not more than capable of like financing the project 60 days plus. And so we want to make sure if there are problems that we just have people in position so we can be aware of it from that point of view. So this is basically only an observation type role. So nobody should be in the meeting engaging. And this would be basically an individual that the mayor will have to designate. And so.
But the 4 and 5, number 4 and number 5, I was getting them confused. Could be the same person in terms of
Absolutely.
city.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's not mandatory that they be there, but they have access.
And
They have
they're
access.
in the notification. They know when they're missing a meeting.
Right. Correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Basically, they'll provide written. In addition to the city having an individual be able to attend, the BCIA would have an opportunity to have someone attend in the same observation role. The BJCC would also provide a monthly written report directly to the mayor and to the council on progress related to construction schedule, payment applications, and statistics related to ownership of demographics in regard to the firms that are actually contracted to work on the project, whether they be directly with the BJCC or subcontractors. 7 is basically a good faith effort from the developer, and so the BJCC, they have a stated goal that they've adopted to hit 30% in regard to hub firms as far as participation. And so basically we're asking for a good faith effort from them in the event that their general contractor, their prime contractor is unable to meet that goal, that they would consider basically bidding separate packages. And so different parts of construction projects can be separated without harming the overall project. So if you think, probably a good example is going to be like FF&E. And so when you build out a project, like your furniture, fixtures, and equipment, so all these chairs and tables and everything throughout the facility could be separately bid just to create additional opportunity. And so basically asking where that opportunity presents itself, so those are scopes of work where it makes sense, it doesn't harm the overall project, that they would consider that if their prime contractor can't meet their goal.
So, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
I'm sorry, number 7.
Are you in you're in number 7,
yeah.
okay. Okay, go back to number 6,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
There.
So have they done the monthly written report in the past?
In the past, they have done presentation, and so that was in the. So if you go back to the stadium, you weren't here when the stadium was. Okay. If you go back to the stadium, the participation agreement had that they would come and do a monthly report, and so.
That's hard to do if we don't have this.
Right, and so that might be something that still stays in that agreement, but. More than a report, I just want the information.
But I think the written report is just more efficient for everybody,
right.
Because we don't often, even if we do have the meetings, we can't get them on the agenda. The agenda
right.
might be too full. So I just think that way you have something and you can compare from month to month.
Right, yeah. It's just kind of, being able to keep up with it. We're trying to build capacity with some of the black contractors, MWB firms, and being able to keep up with their progress. Are they doing a good job? Are you doing a bad job? Is just as important as getting the opportunity. And so we want to make sure that we.
And I just wanted to ask about, item E. You do mention you go beyond just construction, and you mentioned design, and there might be other professional services, like. Project management consultants, a paid owner's rep for them.
Right.
But I would think, we would want the opportunities to be all levels of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with including,
Or maybe,
Yeah.
and say, and other professional services, or related to the project, and perhaps, because I think
I got you, yeah.
we don't want to,
Uh,
and I think the spirit of the intent is for it to apply to everything, really, but.
you know, we can probably just have a catch-all, because in relation to any funds being spent in furtherance of the project, so.
Yeah, because somebody brought up the bond team.
Yes, they did, I did hear that.
But anyway, not to go too far, but I'm just saying, while we're here.
Yeah, I'm with you there. With you there. So we can add some language there. Number 8, we're going to scratch number 8. It makes more sense to have a separate funding agreement and project.
What was the intent of that? What was that one seeking?
Overall, just kind of condense this to one document, but there are some reasons to have a separate funding agreement from your project cooperation agreement.
Okay.
And lastly would just be some form of clawback provision that, in the absence of, you would say good faith effort, but kind of doing these things. I think a lot of these things are pretty much fairly straightforward. Good opportunity to just kind of improve communication. I know on the stadium, the communication wasn't, what I would like to see, and so I think we have opportunity to kind of improve on that going forward. This project is not as complicated as the stadium or project was, and so I think this is a really good opportunity to get some inclusion, get other folks involved, and create opportunity as well as easier to track. And so I think we kind of can align some things there. I will say, let's see.
So was the arena, I mean, I don't know, I was under the impression they had pretty good, I don't know what the goal was, if there was a stated goal.
On the stadium overall?
You're talking about the stadium.
What are you talking about?
I was talking about the arena, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah.
They both happened.
Yeah, they had really good, really strong in the design space and kind of some project manager space. The construction space did well. Could have had some more opportunity there, but that project was such a tight time frame and a complicated thing. And we didn't do a great job of staying in the loop with what was going on, and so by the time we understood, that thing was pretty much done.
Sounds like we're dealing with an entity that has achieved some decent results in the past and could up level on the next one.
Yeah, now like I said, I absolutely say, I spoke with them. They were, anything we can do to move the ball forward, they were all for it. I will say one thing that they did have wanted to check on would be the impact of separate bid packages, and so we're going to look at that. But and if you look at it from a point of view, like they typically you'll bid a project out, you'll have one general contractor, you have a construction manager that will handle everything. If you separate a bid package, that does add a little bit of work, which adds a little bit of cost, and so they would be on them to kind of assign a value to what that cost is, and then the city could either say don't worry about it, or it's worth it to us to have more inclusionary opportunities. And so
I think that's an interesting way because I mean, if it were me and I had to manage 5 contracts instead of 1, I'd be like, look, that's a lot to ask.
Well, they would just
especially
be hiring
in something that's moving quickly. I mean, and it's more payment administration. It's more, it's more everything. But I think if you're saying, assign a value to it, and let us consider it, because you got to have people who are at the table ready to, who's comfortable with that package size too. Who's willing, to work, and so I don't think I've ever seen anybody say, let us know what the cost, what you see as the administrative cost differential, and let us have a chance to say, we'll compensate you for that or
Right,
whatever.
because they would effectively have to either, I guess the easiest way is just hire somebody else to project manage this portion, or somebody to be responsible for this portion of whatever
The
additional bid
coordination,
package.
yeah.
And so now bidding things out in bid packages is very common, but it's not very common in the way they do things. And so I would like to see kind of what that assigned cost is. They're willing to kind of look and see what that would be and kind of consider that.
So what happens to this list of things in your mind? Does this become a part of the contract
Ideally,
that OCA creates governing our participation? Okay.
yeah.
And number 9, the clawback provision, tell me how that would work. How do you claw back anything if someone's been paid for doing it? What does this mean?
Basically, we have to kind of find the best, most effective clawback method, but, we give somebody money. So basically just zoom all the way out. If you have a contractual responsibility to do something and you don't fulfill it fully, we've been harmed, so to speak. And in this case, the residents and stuff. Now I'll let defining what that clawback looks like or assigning a value to each infraction. But yeah, if you have a contractual obligation to do something, you should be held to doing that. And
So my thought is that if we were making a tax abatement or something conditioned on this participation being robust, then we could say, it's something we would be paying you or, giving you in the future. We just won't give it to you because you didn't meet all of your obligations. But a lot of times in these construction type things, they have liquidated damages, and I don't know if that could be sort of a penalty, because if it's going to cost all of the money we put in the pool to build the thing, then the money will be spent in essence, and I think that's what Councilor Abbott is saying. How it's not there for us to get back anymore.
Yeah.
So it might have to be some sort of a fine, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think
don't know how we would.
There's a lot of ways you can approach it. I
Yeah.
mean, you could, they could just owe us the money. 2, you could put a set amount in escrow, to be released at the end of the project.
I think they're going to need it to do the project.
I'm just saying there's a number of ways to handle it, but, if you have a contractual obligation to do something and you don't do it, then it's kind of on you to remedy that. But that one is, I will say that legal will definitely be able to weigh in on the best clawback to use in this situation. But I think there needs to be something in these deals going forward. Like I look at the BJC, this is just a good opportunity on a good project to kind of pilot some things. But ideally, anybody that gets city money to build or do something should build or do it exactly the way they were contracted to do it, and not kind of pick and choose and stuff. That's kind of that thought, but specifically like what the clawback, how that is constructed, and so you wouldn't say assign a $5 million valuation to forgetting to send a report a day late or something like that. So it's just figuring out what's commiserate with each item.
Well, and maybe it's just the way it's written, a clawback provision that protects the taxpayer's investment. What does that have to do with minority participation? Maybe it's just the language that doesn't really fit what it is we're trying to do. Because unless we're giving someone a tax abatement or something like that, there's not really anything to claw back.
People claw back stuff all the time. Like if you have, very simplest form, if you get paid to do something and you don't do it, you haven't fulfilled the terms of your contract. Just because we're paying or, putting dollars in advance, you're still agreeing to do all of these things in exchange for our money. And so, just any money that we spend is taxpayer money in and of itself. So, but I am with you on
But if the thing gets built, then the taxpayer's gotten what, if he wanted what we wanted them to build, they've gotten it. It's kind of like Regents Field. Look what happened there. We had to pay for stuff we didn't even agree to and we didn't even have a contract for, but we still paid for it. So anyway, I'm just a little, this number 9 is.
Well, I think the intent is to have some consequences of not fulfilling this stuff.
Yeah, in this case,
or not breaking your neck trying to fulfill this stuff.
I guess I look at it like if you, in this case, the building itself is not the only deliverable. And so you have to deliver on all the deliverables spelled out in the agreement. You don't have to agree to it, but you do have to, if it is in the agreement and you sign the agreement, in my opinion, you should have to deliver it. But yeah, I'm definitely.
Okay, well, we can just leave it alone. It doesn't make sense to me, but if it makes sense to everybody else, maybe I'm just having a bad day.
We'll try to make it clearer.
I think the intent is good, and
again, I'm not defining the clawback.
Yeah.
Just that there needs to be some remedy if somebody just blows us off completely. Remedy.
Maybe we should just put the remedy in our contract. Take care of it. If you don't do this, this is going to happen to you.
Yeah. Now that would be that's what would be in the contract. This basically asks them to put something because the stadium project agreement doesn't have any remedies for these things.
So in this case, and I'm just learning my way around here. When we pass this out of committee, will the committee of the whole? I mean, what'll happen?
Go to legal, and then
it'll go to legal.
Come to full council.
Go to legal and come before the full council to be like a.
Yeah, legal look at it.
Or something.
Yeah, legal look at it, make sure it's legal, clarify some of the things that aren't clear, and then bring that to full council. And all this does is basically, these are things that we want to see actually make it into the agreement going forward. So trying to memorialize that. And like I said, I think these are small things, not necessarily huge things, but they have a really good ability to make an impact at just being intentional about, putting people in the right spaces to get an opportunity or know what they need to have an opportunity. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's still going to be up to contractors to, have everything in order that they need to have things in order and be able to effectively complete the work. Because like I said, if you're not able to complete the work, then that defeats the purpose. And so that's the goal. So like I said, we want to do our part and try to, level the playing field, whatever we can do to create additional opportunity and make as much progress as possible in that space. So let's see, I did say number 8 was removed, and then we will add some additional notation to number 7 once we get some feedback on kind of what costs might be associated with bidding more packages, and we'll add more detail to 6E to include additional firms outside of design and contracting. Whew, all right, I've used all my words for the week.
Well, I do have one more question. On number 7, are black-owned firms not included under MWBE?
They can be.
Minority, doesn't that cover black firms?
It
So
could,
are we being redundant by saying with black-owned or MWBE firms? Wouldn't it be just MWBE firms?
it's a preference, yeah, it could be. Could be. Definitely could
I
be.
mean, don't you have to prove that you're one and everything? I mean, that you qualify to be named an MWBE firm? You can't just say you're one.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you can prove. And they do have certifications in some, I think the city, we probably need to look at developing one here locally, and that might kind of be something that's birthed out of the disparity study, but the state has a certification. But yeah, I mean, you're either a minority, a woman, or you're not. And you can definitely prove that, so yeah. Oh, also make sure on number 2, we change that from 45 to 30 days.
You know, if it's legal to say black, I would like to say black. I don't know if it's legal.
I think it's legal.
You think it's legal?
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
Okay.
Might be coming for you right now, because you just said it.
Yeah, because I'd like to say it, because
Said it
I
twice.
think you can have MWBE participation and not have any black participation, because it could be all white females and
Facts.
other ethnic minorities. And we're
That's true, but we've
70
said black-owned or MWBE. So,
Should we say and?
well, the legal department will fix it.
Next stop.
We should say and,
Next stop, legal.
because you can be more than one thing,
Oh, now you're preaching.
black and MWBE.
Preaching. Check all your boxes. All right. Okay.
So did we vote on that?
We need to, if anyone is able to make a motion.
Well, I move approval with the changes that have been made, the modifications.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Do we have any unfinished business? Yeah, I don't know. Any new business? All right. I feel like we can entertain a motion to adjourn. I feel like we could have this meeting at the coffee shop. The way we feel like we're just sitting around talking. But yeah, if
It's more fun this way.
I'd say with all our stuff.
Oh, I move that we adjourn.
Yeah, I think there's another one. Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. We are